Warren Buffett's top 3 tips for those who want to make money in 2021. There are so many tips for how to make money online. None of these ever seem to do people any good. And so, why don't you try considering money-making tips from someone who has been doing it for generations now? Warren Buffett is the world's 7th richest man, and by following his tips, you just might become very rich as well. Before we get to Warren Buffett's 3 important wealth creation tips, it might be important to have an overview of his life. Not only will this help us contextualize his advice, but it will also help us contextualize his life itself. Warren Buffett has been living for about 90 years now. The world has changed much since he was born. And so, has he been able to create wealth through the same principles, or has he adjusted his approach to suit the changing times? Let's find out. Warren Buffett was born on August 30th, all the way back in 1930. He had a relatively uneventful childhood, having been raised in Oklahoma and Washington, D.C. Even in his youth, Warren was good at math, so much so that his high school yearbook infamously reads, "Likes math, a future stockbroker." Given that Warren Buffett's father was a stockbroker, he began to foster an interest in the stock market at a young age. He spent his school days in the lounge of his father's brokerage, listening to and observing the professions at the time. At the age of 11 years old, he had already bought his first unit of stock. By the time he graduated college, he had accumulated $9,800 in savings, which is inflation adjusted to about $107,000 today. After leaving school with a bachelor's in business administration and a master's in economics, Buffett started out his own brokerage firm known as Buffett Falk & Co., where he worked as an investment salesman. The success of this venture led him to form so many meaningful connections, and this would eventually see him to take over a company known as Berkshire Hathaway. Today, Berkshire Hathaway is known as the biggest multinational conglomerate in the world. The share price currently hovers around $400,000, which is the highest of any individual stock ever. But it might interest you to know that Berkshire Hathaway was initially a textile company, and Buffett considered it his worst investment. It took so many wise business decisions to get it to the level it is today. And so, from all this, it should be abundantly clear that Warren Buffett is some sort of genius. If you should listen to anyone's financial tips at all, he should be at the top of that list. Without further ado, what are his 3 important tips for wealth creation? Let's jump right into it. First off, Warren Buffett advises being patient. As boring as this sounds, it is also remarkably effective. To take an example of this in Warren Buffett's own life, he wanted to quit school and start his own business ventures without attending college. As a mere teenager, he felt that he understood the concepts of business well enough and could make something of himself even without a college degree. He already had much money in savings and would probably have had enough to fall back on even if his investments flopped. And so, instead of rushing into business during those uncertain times, Buffett decided to be patient. He spent the time acquiring more knowledge and went on to attend Columbia University. There's no doubt that the knowledge gained from these educative ventures made him the investor he is today. Although he could have had some measure of success without the advanced education, he might not have become the world's greatest ever investor. Warren Buffett also expressed patience after the purchase of Berkshire Hathaway. At the time, Berkshire Hathaway was just a textile company. Later, Buffett himself admitted that it was an overvalued company. Instead of cutting his losses and selling the company, he continued to hold on to it for years. Later, through Berkshire Hathaway, he purchased many other companies, creating one of the world's largest conglomerates. It was this Berkshire Hathaway business that made Buffett a billionaire. If not for his patience with what was initially a failure of an investment, then this empire would never have seen the light of day. Warren Buffett's second tip is to invest in what you know and what you understand. The importance of this tip cannot be overstated. A lot of new investors fall for investment fads all the time. These are bubbles that swell up time after time. The thing about bubbles is that they always burst. And so, if you're late to the party, you could wind up making some rather heavy losses. And so, make sure that whatever you've decided to invest in has a very solid base. Make sure the asset is something you understand, rather than just a passing fad. Although you can make money from those schemes if you go in early enough and get out early enough, such schemes can backfire in a terrible way. Consider the cryptocurrency bubble. Even though there's a lot of merit to blockchain technology, the fact of the matter is that crypto is way overvalued. A lot of people buy cryptocurrency just to buy cryptocurrency. They do so with the hope that the next person will want it more than they do, and then they can make a profit. And so, during the cryptocurrency crash, a lot of people made some pretty devastating losses. Rather than employ this kind of blind faith strategy, what Warren Buffett does is that he makes sure he understands his assets perfectly, and he makes sure he understands how his assets make money from him. Usually, the businesses he invests in have their own way of generating value. This beats following the crowd or getting in on something simply because it's popular. Warren Buffett's third and final tip is to invest in yourself before you invest in anything else. After all, you are your most important asset. If you don't invest in yourself, no one will. There are quite a number of ways to invest in yourself. These include education, self-development, taking care of your health, taking care of your financials, and setting up a rainy day fund, just to name a few. Buffett is currently 90 years old, and he still leads the world's biggest company. He owned his first stock when he was about 10 years old, meaning that he's been in this business for some 80 years. All this wouldn't be possible if he didn't invest in himself. Buffett expanded his horizons by furthering his education, listening to experts, setting up an early savings account, and taking meaningful risks. So many people throw away their lives by overworking themselves. In this business, working smart is way better than working hard. Doing the latter may lead you to an early grave. In any case, this piece of advice isn't an excuse to be lazy. Coming to the end of this video, we hope you've understood the wealth creation concepts proposed by Warren Buffett. He is the world's most successful investor for a reason. If you want to learn more, then check out other videos on this channel. Until next time, take care.